There you were beneath the stars my eyes could not believe. That was the night we fell in love, and it was on Christmas Eve. Chapter 8. There you were beneath the stars. I met Mary Kay Price in 1969. She was sitting in another bloke's ute in Moree. Her beauty struck me immediately. Phil, who owned the ute, was a mate of Mary Kay's brother's. The next time I saw Phil, I remarked that he'd better keep an eye on her, as she was beautiful. Not long after that, I saw Mary Kay at Yambulla, a neighbouring farm owned by the Shelton family, who held the traditional Christmas party every year. I arrived with the English girl who Mum had hired to help with the cooking at harvest time. I found out later that Mary Kay thought the English girl was my date and was very embarrassed when I gave Mary Kay my full attention. Everyone else noticed too, but I didn't care. I was spellbound. Mary Kay was only 17 and just out of boarding school. I was 6 years older. As you can imagine, tongues wagged. There I was, the oldest of 5 new boys in the district, a successful farmer. We had already bought 2 of the best properties around. I remember saying to her older brother, Tony, "Geez, Droopy, where have you been hiding your little sister?" Later, I caught Mary Kay's eye in the Cropper Creek store. I deliberately became interested in the same grocery shelf. It felt a bit like stalking that day, but as it turned out, she was warming to the idea that I was very keen to take her out. My next move was to ring Mary Kay at Sefton, her family's property, and ask her to dinner and the movies in Moree. I'll never forget that evening when I arrived at Sefton. Mary Kay has a sister and 4 brothers, and they were all inside the homestead playing the card game euchre. The Prices have always been mad about cards, and they're very competitive and loud, but when I arrived, the noise stopped as soon as I knocked on the door. It was a big moment. Mary Kay was very precious to them all, and here was this older Victorian lad on their doorstep. I was half an hour later than expected. Her dad, George, answered the door, and I said, "Sorry I'm half an hour late. I got held up fueling the ute." George turned and called, "Mary Kay, he's here." Then under his breath to the family, "We've got a con artist here." At the time, I had no idea that the half-hour delay had caused a bit of tension. I can imagine the brothers saying, "He's gone to water," or "He's chickened out," or "He's a bullshit artist." But I was determined, so none of this bothered me. As I got to know George and his family, I understood it was par for the course to give everyone a hard time, all in good fun. The whole family had inherited George's sense of humour and irreverence, an amazing achievement for a man who hardly moved from the kitchen table with his racing form guide, a packet of fags and a box of Becks. Everyone in that family had a nickname, and you could be excused for forgetting their real names after a while. George called me "dear boy." His adopted mother, Auntie Ducky, called me "a dear boy," and I think it made him a little jealous. Out of earshot, the family referred to him as Pancho. He did have a bit of an old Mexican look. George had virtually retired by the time I met him in 1969. He was a soldier who escaped from Singapore when the Japanese invaded it. Apparently he managed to find a small boat, but somehow ended up in the water for quite some time waiting for a friendly ship to pick him up. It's all a bit sketchy. I don't think the family knows to this day exactly what to believe about the late George Price. He could get out of control on the Scotch, but he was a lovable rogue, and I guess that's all that mattered in the end.